Hello there, everyone. If you're watching this video, then you are part of the TTOR army, an army that is building itself up one subscriber at a time. But before we go any further into the topic of today's video, I'd like to bring an important PSA to you all. Not too long ago, about 2.5, close to 3 months ago, I started an open source alt-tech alternative to YouTube called Quarter. Quarter has a lot of the same features and functionality that you would expect from a site like YouTube, which includes full-on 1080p HD video uploads, live streaming, free restreaming, public playlists, an easy-to-use comment moderation system, the ability to switch between different levels of resolution on videos, and much more. It also includes features that you don't get on YouTube, like Quarter Bucks, which is an insight currency that you earn by getting views on your videos, and you in turn can use that currency to promote your videos or your whole channel on the main page of the website, which you can see here if users like Darkmoon75 and Darkstorm's Royal Empire. You can also create video chat rooms that you can basically have video calls with friends, family, coworkers, etc. But you can also live stream to your channel from these video chat rooms. So, in addition to all those features, Quarter also champions freedom of speech in action as well as in word. You can talk about and say and do whatever you want on Quarter as long as it doesn't violate any laws in the United States of America, since this is where the website is hosted. So with that being said, if you're watching this, be sure to join Quarter today. And if you're a content creator watching this, you really should create a Quarter channel and start uploading your content to Quarter and start promoting Quarter as a website as well as your Quarter channel. If enough of us start doing that, eventually in a couple of years, Quarter will become a big site. And if it doesn't happen quickly enough, it might take 5 to 10 years, who knows. But if enough of us do it, this website will get pretty big. Now that we've given that PSA, let's talk about the subject of today's video, which is genetically modified skeptic. Now, I have seen many an atheist YouTuber say things that are so stupid that it becomes painfully clear that they have no idea what they're talking about, and it leaves you wondering why anyone believes them at all when they claim that atheism, evolution, billions of years, and Big Bang cosmology is true, and why anyone believes them at all when they say that young Earth creationism or the biblical worldview is false. Back in 2019, I did a video called Professor Stick Claims That Intelligent Intervention is Proof of Atheistic Evolution, where we see Professor Stick claiming that, and I explain why that doesn't work. And over a year ago, I put out a video titled Sir Sick Admits That I'm Right before falsely claiming that poor design equals no designer. In this video, we see the evolutionist atheist YouTuber Sir Sick claim that poor design equals no designer, and I destroyed that argument live and in color for all of you to watch. Links to the Professor Stick response and the Sir Sick response will be in the description box below. So how does genetically modified skeptic fit into all of this? Well, genetically modified skeptic a couple years back put out a video called Atheists Can't Answer This Question, But We Can. It is from the 5-minute 20-second mark to the 5-minute 48-second mark of this video where we see genetically modified skeptic, who is also known as Drew, say the following.
Okay, so there appears to be intelligence behind the universe.
Turek can state this all he wants, but the universe's intuitive appearance to anyone means nothing until they can demonstrate that there is intelligence behind the universe. Again, Turek just restates a talking point that doesn't contend with the puddle analogy because he can't contend with the puddle analogy. The analogy directly acknowledges that the universe appears designed, and it poses an explanation for why that appearance is deceiving.
So, as we could see in that clip, Genetically Modified Skeptic is essentially arguing that even though reality has the appearance of design, reality really isn't designed. He claims that reality only has the appearance of design because of evolution over billions of years, which is the basic argument behind the puddle analogy that he's talking about here in this video. Now, there are a few things I'd like to say in response to that. The first thing I'd like to point out is that Genetically Modified Skeptic claims that the universe's intuitive appearance of design is not really a problem, and that it doesn't mean anything unless you can show that the creator or designer behind it actually exists. Well, if the universe having the appearance of design and people intuitively coming to that conclusion just by looking at the universe is not a problem or not something to be concerned about, Genetically Modified Skeptic, then how come back in 2016 The Guardian put out an article dealing with this issue titled "Evolution Makes Scientific Sense, so why do many people reject it?" The subtitle says, "Child psychology studies have identified a natural human bias toward the theory of intelligent design and pose a solution. Teach evolution earlier." So I've reviewed this article in many videos in the past, so I'm not going to go into detail on this article now. I'll have a link to it, though, in the description box below if you do want to read it. But basically, the article by The Guardian back in 2016 says that child psychology studies have shown that human beings, when they come out of the womb and they haven't been indoctrinated into any ideologies, they tend to believe in intelligent design and a god of some kind when they observe the reality around them. And this was such a big problem that The Guardian proposed that we needed to start indoctrinating 5 to 8-year-olds into evolution in billions of years and Big Bang cosmology through colorful storybooks. And the reason why we should do it is because at that age, children don't have the cognitive ability to challenge what they're being told by adults. They'll tend to believe whatever you tell them. Now, what's funny about this reasoning is that atheists and evolutionists would tell Christians like me that the lack of cognitive abilities on the parts of our children that young is a reason why we should not teach the biblical worldview to them at that age, but apparently it's a perfectly valid reason to teach them evolution, billions of years, and Big Bang cosmology. So, the universe having the appearance of design being intuitive to anyone not indoctrinated into evolutionary worldview is such a problem that The Guardian years ago proposed a solution to deal with the problem, and yet a few years later, Genetically Modified Skeptic claims, that's not really an issue, unless you can show that there's an actual creator god. It doesn't matter that the universe has the appearance of design. It doesn't matter that human beings' natural intuition when they observe the universe is to believe in intelligent design, i.e. a creator god. So yeah, that's not really a problem at all, because you can't show the creator exists in the 5 senses. The other problem with what Genetically Modified Skeptic said here is that this is something that we can actually compare. So Genetically Modified Skeptic, the atheistic evolutionist, claims that reality has the appearance of design, but it really isn't designed because of evolution and billions of years. Compare that to a young earth creationist and Christian like me who believes that because reality has the appearance of design, reality must actually be designed. So really, Genetically Modified Skeptic and I, we believe the same thing. We both believe that reality has the appearance of design. He believes that reality isn't actually designed, even though it appears to be, because of evolution over billions of years. I believe that reality has the appearance of design because it actually is designed. So we have to ask at this point a very important question to Genetically Modified Skeptic. What is the difference, practically speaking, between a reality that appears to be designed but really isn't, and a reality that appears to be designed because it really is designed? Now, at first glance, you would think, well, there is no practical difference between the two because in both cases, everything appears to be designed. You would be right about that, but there actually is a difference between Drew and his camp and me and my camp on this question and this issue. The difference is that Drew and his camp denies what they observe in reality in order to justify their worldview and beliefs about origins. My camp, meanwhile, allows what they observe in reality to help them arrive at their worldview and beliefs about origins. And this is hilarious to me because Drew and his atheist friends, his atheist content creator friends, constantly claim that Christians and young earth creationists like myself have to deny everything we observe in reality in order to justify our beliefs and worldview, and yet we see people like Drew denying what they observe in reality in order to justify believing that you can have a design without a designer behind it. Things only get worse for Drew from here on out. In the next and last clip that we'll be looking at in this video, we start at the 5-minute and 48-second mark and see Drew say the following.
Secondly, the genome that we mentioned earlier, the 3.2 billion letter genome, is like a software program.
You could compare genetic sequences to binary code. Sure, there are certainly similarities there. Does that demonstrate that there is intelligence behind genetic sequences, though? No. This point is intuitive, and that may be convincing to some, but it ultimately proves nothing. Show me the supernatural design process of its creation. Show me its creator directly. If you can't, asserting that it was designed is unjustifiable.
So, as we saw in that clip, Genetically Modified Skeptic claims that unless I can show him the creator God who made the human genome, it is unjustifiable to claim that a creator God created the human genome. By extension, this means that I can't conclude that the human genome, or anything else in reality for that matter, was designed unless I can show the designer to the skeptic. Now, this claim of his just sounds so problematic to me, but I can't figure out why. How should I go about ascertaining whether or not this argument is actually bad or not? Well, how about we take Drew's advice that he gave us in his older video, If Atheists Argued Like Theists. It is in this video at the 2-minute and 52-second mark that Drew gives us some solid advice.
Yeah, sounds pretty ridiculous, doesn't it? Do you think any theist would actually be persuaded by these arguments? I don't think so. That's why these arguments shouldn't be used by anyone. The point is, if you make an argument that can be flipped around and used just as effectively to support a completely different point, then your argument isn't really effective at all. This goes for anyone on any side of any issue. Before using an argument, try swapping out a few words here and there to see if it works for any point. If it does, then it's not really an argument worth using.
All right, so there we got Drew's advice. To figure out if his argument is good or not, we should just swap out the subject of the argument, keep the same form, and if the argument is just as valid when applied to things that are ridiculous, well then the argument itself is not very good. The problem with Drew's argument is that when I take his advice and I take his argument regarding God and the human genome and I apply it to anything but God and the Bible, what I would find is that Drew not only would not accept this argument, he would probably laugh in my face for making such a bad argument. What do I mean by this? Well, behind me, we got my TV monitor, we got my Xbox One, we got my Blu-ray player on top of that. Off camera, we have my Xbox 360 and my original Xbox. There's also a fan over there. Right here, to the right of me, is my lamp shining light on my face. To my left here, you can see my microphone. I'm recording this whole thing on a gaming laptop that I have, and there's a keyboard attached to this laptop right here. There's a hard drive plugged into my computer. The software on my computer allows me not only to write books, but also to record and edit and publish videos. And all of these things have the obvious appearance of design. I can tell by looking at my Xbox consoles and my computer and the software on my computer, and I can tell by my microphone and my lamp and all the other obviously designed items here in my bedroom that these things were designed by a designer or a group of designers. But if we hold to Drew's standard where, well, if you can't show me the designer behind a design, you can't justify calling that thing designed, by Drew's own standard that he set up with this argument he made regarding God and the human genome, because I personally cannot show Drew the designers behind my TV monitor, my Xbox One, my Xbox 360, my original Xbox, my Blu-ray player, my fan, my computer, my microphone, the software that I use to write books and make videos, etc., then I cannot justify claiming that those things were designed by a designer or a group of designers, by a mind or a group of minds. So in other words, all this stuff in my room that clearly has the appearance of design and that no one would seriously question whether or not they were actually designed by a designer or a group of designers, I have to conclude that my computer, my consoles, my fan, and the software on my computer and all the other stuff I mentioned, I have to conclude that none of it was designed because I can't show Drew the designer or group of designers behind said things. Now, the Christian apologist YouTuber What Do You Meme also responded to this claim that Drew made in this video. And we can see here at the 12-minute and 43-second mark of What Do You Meme's video, Genetically Modified Skeptic Can't Understand His Own Objections, response to Frank Turek criticism, What Do You Meme says the following.
Okay, so there appears to be intelligence behind the universe.
Turek can state this all he wants, but the universe's intuitive appearance to anyone means nothing until they can demonstrate that there is intelligence behind the universe. Again, Turek just restates a talking point that doesn't contend with the puddle analogy because he can't contend with the puddle analogy.
A little ironic, wouldn't you say?
The analogy directly acknowledges that the universe appears designed, and it poses an explanation for why that appearance is deceiving.
Secondly, the genome that we mentioned earlier, the 3.2 billion letter genome, is like a software program.
You could compare genetic sequences to binary code. Sure, there are certainly similarities there. Does that demonstrate that there is intelligence behind genetic sequences, though? No. This point is intuitive, and that may be convincing to some, but it ultimately proves nothing. Show me the supernatural design process of its creation. Show me its creator directly. If you can't, asserting that it was designed is unjustifiable.
Okay, lots of problems with that. I'll be responding to his comments about genetic sequencing and binary code later, but consider his point that we first have to see the process or the designer before we can infer design. Now, I just like to point out that if the world were to accept his logic here, then archaeologists everywhere would be out of a job. Could you imagine being an archaeologist and stumbling on some ancient pottery and reasonably concluding that there must have been an ancient civilization that probably designed the pottery, only to hear Drew say,
"Show me its creator directly." If you can't, asserting that it was designed is unjustifiable.
Or if we found some machinery on the side of the moon?
"Show me its creator directly." If you can't, asserting that it was designed is unjustifiable.
Or tell that to SETI, who actually understands the distinction between intentional and unintentional design.
"Show me its creator directly."
Looks like they're out of a job too. Now, countless examples could be given, and if you can think of one, go ahead and write yours down below. Not to mention that this reasoning would destroy science's way to use inference to the best explanation, since there's countless things that are affirmed not because we see the thing or we understand the process all the way, but because we see its effects or because it best explains the observable data. Now, we're going to get to the rest of it.
And What Do You Meme did an excellent job of explaining how Drew's logic, if taken to its ultimate conclusion, would basically render science completely useless. So, as we can see in this video, and as we've seen in past videos that I've done in response to people like Sir Sick and Professor Stick, atheist evolutionist YouTubers like Drew here have a nasty habit of applying standards to God and the Bible that they wouldn't dare dream of applying to anyone or anything else. And if you were to apply their arguments to anyone or anything else and present it to them as a serious argument, Drew and Sir Sick and Professor Stick and all these people would laugh you out of the room. They wouldn't take you seriously. They'd think you're quite stupid. And yet, these guys make those exact same stupid arguments as part of an attack on God's existence or God's character or his abilities as a designer. The reason why Drew and other atheist evolutionist YouTubers apply arguments to God and the Bible in order to disprove it that they would never apply to anyone or anything else is because at the end of the day, these atheist evolutionist YouTubers, they hate God and they hate the biblical worldview. The problem is that they can't justify their rejection of God and the biblical worldview without engaging in some incredibly duplicitous double standards. It's very similar to the way that people in relationships with really nice partners suddenly come across someone else that they'd rather have as a partner, but they don't have a good reason to justify breaking up with the partner they currently have. And so then they start fights with the partner they currently have, and they start belittling them, and they start engaging in some serious fault finding, even if the faults are really minor and trivial and picky and aren't good reasons to justify breaking up with the person. And at the end of the day, what these people do in order to justify breaking up with their partner in order to go after this other person is that they try to portray their good partner as someone who's not a good person. Basically, they lie about and slander their partner in order to justify the breakup. Well, yeah, even though they're really nice and they were good to me and they didn't do anything wrong to me, turns out they actually did all these wrong things that I previously didn't even care about, and therefore I can't be with them. And then, of course, the partner they break up with finds out later, if they didn't find out by then, that the person who broke up with them jumped right away into another relationship with another person that they were interested in while they were dating you. So, yes, people treat God the same way. God is perfect in his love and his mercy as well as his justice and his wrath. And he knows us better than we know ourselves, and he wants to be in a personal relationship with us. He wants to be with us and have us be in good standing with him. So, obviously, God is the best being ever. He's exactly what we need in our lives. He's the one who should be the ultimate authority of our lives. But there are people like Drew, like Sir Sick, like Professor Stick, and like so many others. They don't want to be in a relationship with God, and they want to get out of that relationship. But they can't justify rejecting God and the biblical worldview without coming across as bad people with ulterior motives and plans to commit crimes against God and humanity. And so, in order to justify their rejection of God and the biblical worldview and to justify what they're about to do, atheists and evolutionists go right on ahead and they try to either deny that God exists, or if they don't take that approach, what they'll do is they'll acknowledge that God exists, but that he's this horrible, evil person and he's not worth worshiping, he's not worth having a personal relationship with, and that's what leads them to ultimately say, well, even if you can prove that the God of the Bible exists, even if you can prove that the biblical worldview is true, and even if you can prove that my worldview of atheism and evolution in billions of years is false, I still won't worship your God. And I still won't convert to the biblical worldview. Of course, once they've gotten to this point, they've proven to the entire world that their rejection of God has nothing to do with logic, reason, rationality, evidence, or good arguments, or whatever. It's a volitional, emotional decision on their part.